2006 has brought 1.3 billion additional dollars into Oregon, according to the Oregon Department of Transportation, over the last 15 years. And that will remain. That's my legacy. The Harbor Maintenance Tax Trust Fund is my legacy. Many other things. There's things I want to enjoy. There's wilderness areas I created. I want to go hike Devil's Staircase again. Copper salmon. The expansion of the Oregon caves, which I worked on for more than 20 years to protect the only underground wild and scenic river in the United States, the river Styx, the Steens Monument, the Newberry Volcanic Monument, many other accomplishments in the area of resources. I mean, my first term, the largest ever expansion of the Wild and Scenic Rivers Act in the lower 48, which I did with Republican Marco Hatfield. In the next term, I put a permanent ban on the export of logs off federal lands with Republican Congressman or Senator, Bob Packwood, and many other things I've done. Half my career has been in the minority, but in the old days in the minority, particularly in infrastructure, we could work across the aisle. Now the 13 Republicans who had the guts to vote for my infrastructure bill are being threatened with being removed from their committees. They're getting death threats because infrastructure has become a dirty word because of the Republican leadership who doesn't want anything that has President Biden's name on it to succeed. That's very, very unfortunate. I'm hoping maybe we turned a corner with that bill, but I don't know. But there comes a time, 36 years, the longest commute in the lower 48. I need a little more time for myself, for my health and well-being, for my wife, my family, and for the things I love in Oregon. So with that, today I am announcing that I will not run again for re-election. My district is, thanks to the legislature, now 5 or 6 points better for a Democrat. Finally, I have a district that another Democrat can win. It's no longer a Republican district. And I fully expect to endorse and work hard for the Democratic nominee and keep that seat in the Democratic column. I'm not going away. I'm still going to be active, but it's going to be at my pace, and I'm not going to be doing bi-weekly transcontinental airplane flights. So with that, I'd be happy to take questions.
Thank you, Congressman. We'll go over to Dick Hughes for the first question. Dick, please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Thank you very much, Congressman. Congratulations on that decision. Many questions I could ask, but how is your health? Do you have any plans to run for another office? I presume you don't, but we should never assume. And is there any one overriding reason that you made this decision?
Dick, it wasn't a great year. I had back surgery recently, exacerbated by many hours sitting on airplanes. Airplanes are the worst thing for the back. I've had some other minor but disturbing health issues, all of which I can relate to stress and travel. Too much travel and other things. I've just decided that this is the right time for me. I'm going out at the top. I've still got work to do. I've got $40 billion in the Build Back Better bill to do more things on greenhouse gas reduction, to do more things on equity, do more things on high-speed rail, do more things on transit. And I'm already working with senators to try and the White House to keep those provisions in that bill. I don't know what's going to happen at the Senate. It's a pretty dysfunctional place. And then I've got other bills to work on in the coming year, plus the implementation of that extra $500 billion for transportation. I've already been in touch with Mitch Landrieu, who is going to shepherd that money out. And we're going to shape that money in a way that deals more meaningfully with climate change and resilience and greenhouse gas reduction than the Senate bill, which left out some of my most important provisions. So there's a lot to do. Another year to go. I'll be 75 and a half when I finish this term, and it's time to pass the torch.
Thank you,
Thank
Congressman. We'll go over to Louis Kraus with the Registered Regard. Louis, please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hi, Congressman. Thank you for answering our questions. I wanted to ask, I know you ran a pretty contested race back in 2020. Was wondering, was that at all a factor in your decision? And also was wondering if you think that the completed infrastructure bill is something you feel like you can hang your hat on and also played a role.
Yeah, as I said, I first proposed a more modest $350 billion increase under President Obama. We got $550 billion in this bill. That's a little less than my bill, but I know I drove the number in the Senate. They couldn't ignore what I passed through the House on a bipartisan basis. My policies were better. I had a little more money, and I'm trying to fix that in the Build Back Better. But that's one heck of an accomplishment. And as I said, Oregon, with the change I got in the formula 15 years ago, will be a major beneficiary under that bill to deal with our festering infrastructure problems. And it's not just roads, bridges, highways, transit. It's the ports, the port maintenance, it's wastewater, drinking water, broadband. All those things are in that bill, which are going to be of tremendous, tremendous benefit to our state. I think you asked me something else, but I can't remember.
Yeah, I was just wondering about the.
Oh, right, the last, yeah. It was, it's tiring, to be chairman of a committee and have incredible national responsibilities and demands here, and then have the longest commute home to campaign. But it was the most expensive congressional race in the history of the state of Oregon. The Republicans put everything they had into it. I beat Mr. Scarlatos by nearly 6 points. And now my district is about 5 points better for a Democrat. So it's a time when I feel good that another Democrat can win. So it's a good time to go.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
We'll now head over to Jayati Ramakrishnan with the Oregonian. Jayati, please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Yeah. Hi, Congressman. This is Jayati Ramakrishnan. Thanks for taking our questions. I just wanted to see, is there any candidate or multiple candidates that you favor to take your spot or to run for your position?
I will fully endorse and support and assist the Democratic nominee. At this point, I'm not choosing a successor. I expect there will be people I expect, and I expect there will probably be people I don't expect who'll run for the seat. We need someone who's strong, accomplished, qualified, hopefully with experience, with the public sector and policy making. But there's a lot of folks out there, I know, a lot of talent. It's been 36 years since the seat's been open. I expect there'll be a lot of folks.
Anyone in particular that you can identify?
No, not at this point. I haven't been calling, like politicals in Oregon except for friends. So at this point, I don't really, like I said, I fully expect to endorse the nominee. Before that, I'll watch the field.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now move on to a question from Ariel with KEZI. Ariel, please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Thank you. Thank you, Congressman, again, for joining us today and giving us the opportunity to ask questions. I appreciate it. So my question might be similar to the one that was just asked, but what are your hopes for the next representative of the 4th District and for next steps with the state?
Well, this is a very large, a very diverse congressional district. It was before redistricting, I think the 38th largest in land area in Congress. Huge diversity of views across the district. I've never told people in any part of my district one thing and people in another part something else. I mean, so for years I've had Republicans walked up to me at the Douglas County Fair and say, I don't like that. I didn't like what you do, but I always know where you stand, so I still vote for you. I want someone who'll be the same. Someone who'll take the Wayne Morris pledge to deliver for their constituents, for the state, for the nation, absent offers of political support or threats of political opposition. That's what I want, someone who has the gumption to do that. And I'm sure there's someone out there like that.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Thank you. We'll now go over to Kellee Azar. Kellee, please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Thank you. This is Kellee Azar. I'm from K2 News. We have a couple of questions. They all coincide, though. So, any concern about the switch of power in the House, and how did that weigh into your decision? Also, with you leaving, of course, so goes your seniority in the House. Are you concerned that that's going to leave an impact?
Well, I think the Republicans are measuring the curtains a little too early, and having overconfidence on the other side of the aisle is always good. At this point, they're offering nothing in the House of Representatives or in the Senate except obstruction. I think the Americans and Oregonians want more out of their senators and representatives than do nothing. They're sort of like the modern version of the Know Nothing Party. That's very sad. The 13 who had the guts to vote for infrastructure investment, infrastructure would choose to pass the House by like a 95% margin. Those 13 have been vilified, attacked, threatened with loss of committee assignments, gotten death threats. That's a very sad turn for America. I'm hoping that we've reached the bottom and things are going to turn around. And I think Americans are going to demand more accountability, and they're going to want to have people who offer a future and not just like, no, we just want to block everything that's being proposed. So, I mean, it's like, as I said, many of my accomplishments are going to stand after me. Oregon's still going to get more every year in the formula I changed for transportation investments. Our harbors are going to get dredged without begging the Corps of Engineers or the appropriators. And our jetties are going to get maintained. The wilderness areas I created, the 295 people who got my congressional pay raise scholarships, that's been one of the most gratifying things in my career. These people, some of them had totally changed their lives and they went on to great careers on their own. So, it's been, my Organics Act that really started and boosted that, did that in the 90s. It was the only amendment that passed on an agriculture bill opposed by the Democratic majority. But I passed it and partnering with Pat Leahy in the Senate, who's also retiring after a very long and distinguished career. But, we now have a very robust national organic standard and a multi-billion-dollar organics industry. There's a lot of things that I've done that are going to last long after me. And the new person will have different skills, different talents, and different achievements. But I know that they will serve us well also.
If I can circle back, though, just on the seniority aspect of things, no longer being in the House in regards to you obviously, as you just said, bring a large knowledge base. And so do, other Congress people who also are leaving with that decades of experience. How will that impact the House?
We have an incredible group of talented young people here. I'm not going to go through the list, but I expect a major change in the leadership of the House next Congress. I expect, there'll obviously be changes in committee leadership, but, the next generation and the next generation after them who are already elected, they're talented, they're good, and they will serve us well. So I'm not concerned about, continuity. I've done what I can, and it's an appropriate time to pass the torch.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now go to Katie with KOBI. Katie, please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Thank you. So in your nearly 4 decades as a congressman, how have the two political parties' relationships changed over your nearly 4 decades? But then also kind of looking towards the future, What advice do you have for both Democrats and Republicans as they continue to negotiate and create policy for Americans?
Well, half of my career has been in the minority. And one of my single greatest achievements came when I was in the minority in 2006, Safety Lou. That's when I changed the formula for Oregon. That's brought in $1.3 billion. That's when I got a direct allocation of $450 million for crumbling I-5 bridges. I was in the minority. There was a spirit that transportation infrastructure was nonpartisan. It has been because of Donald Trump, and his failure to deliver on his infrastructure, 7 fake failed infrastructure weeks. That was his total product. And yet he is decrying the major bill that passed, supported by 13 Republican senators and 13 or maybe more senators and 13 members of the House. That's not right. When Republicans start going out, they went out after we passed the rescue package and saved a lot of small businesses, and they went out to talk about saving small businesses, but not a one of them voted for it, and only 13 voted for the infrastructure investment. So when people see finally that we're not going to have sewer systems that back up into their basements, water mains that blow up, they're going to get broadband access, they're not going to have bridges collapsing. And all that, they'll remember who supported it and who didn't. And there'll be some accountability, and hopefully that will bring them back to their senses and not just following the day-to-day whims of Donald Trump and worshiping on his altar.
Thank you so much.
We'll now go to Olivia Young with KVAL. Olivia, please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hi, thank you so much. Congressman, you mentioned a number of accomplishments. Are there any regrets or anything you feel you weren't able to do?
I had hoped that reconciliation would contain my long proposed fix for Social Security. All we have to do is lift the cap on earnings so that people who earn over $150,000 a year pay the same percent of their income as people who earn $30,000 a year. Social Security would be secure forever. Couldn't get that in the reconciliation. So that's one I leave to my successor. But at some point, we're going to have to deal with that. And then I'm proud of some of the fights that I fought and lost. I led the fight against the Wall Street bailout, the TARP. We beat it in the United States House of Representatives. We beat it. It was one of my proudest moments. And 2 days later, it comes back to the Senate. They vote for it. They send it back to the House, and a bunch of my weak-kneed colleagues flipped their votes. If we had meaningfully taken on Wall Street at that point in time, we'd be a healthier country. Wall Street is like a leech on the economy. Boeing was driven by Wall Street, stock price and bonuses. And so much of what's happening to America's great industries and our job loss is all being driven by profit taking on Wall Street and speculators. So that was a great fight. We lost, but I'm still proud of that moment. And I'm very proud of the fact that I opposed every so-called free trade agreement. For years, I was vilified, and now suddenly people are saying, we can't make N95 masks anymore. We can't make pharmaceuticals anymore. We can't manufacture critical things anymore. We're dependent upon China. And suddenly, like the tide has shifted. I was very far ahead of that curve. And so I'm proud to have been ahead of the curve, and I'm glad to see that finally we're turning a corner and starting to rethink our dependence upon the so-called global economy, chasing the cheapest labor, most abused labor, and the lack of environmental regulations around the world, particularly in times of climate change. So there's fights that I've lost, but I'm proud I was there for them.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now go over to Les Sates with the Oregon Capital Chronicle. Les, please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hey, Congressman, this kind of follows up on the question you were just asked, but what's the biggest unfinished business for Oregon that you're still going to try and get done in your next 13 months? And secondly, are we going to see you back on Cycle Oregon?
Well, Cycle Oregon for the last 6 or 7 years has totally conflicted with the congressional schedule. Yes, I hope to be there. I had back surgery, but it's going well, and I may be riding an upright bike instead of drop handlebars, but I'm hoping to be there. Like I say, I want to enjoy the beauties of our state some more. I don't really have unfinished business for Oregon. We've still got to deal with some major projects. Columbia River Crossing, well, I created a program. I got us designated as a project of national significance. I'm hoping the two states get it together and get it together soon, and I will help push that with the administration. We created a huge new program for bridges and projects of national and regional significance, and a new bridge program. So that's one that's undone. But for my district and the rest of the state, the battles I've fought and won for wild and scenic rivers, for wilderness areas, for the Steens and all those things, they're longstanding, and there'll be new challenges for the next representative and things that they're going to have to fight for our state. But I feel good about the legacy I've left.
Good. Thank you, sir.
We'll now go over to a question from Carissa with the News Review. Carissa says, Alex Garlatos reacted to your announcement by saying your policies had destroyed Southwest Oregon.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? And what have been some of your top accomplishments that benefited Southwest Oregon?
Well, we would have a lot of dead communities on the coast, except for my advocacy over the years. I used to have every year earmark the dredging for my ports because we always got left out of the president's budget. And then when the Republicans took over, I had to take on a different approach, and that's what my harbor maintenance tax does. Now we're not going to have to scramble for money to keep our harbors open, our jetties repaired. The Coos Bay rail line with a potential container port coming into Coos Bay, that would not exist without me. I got federal money to help the state buy that railroad for the port. I got a lot of federal money to fix it up to the point where we've got a container company interested. That's going to be an incredible boon for the Oregon coast. Mr. Scarlatos, as he said, he's not the most qualified person to run, but he ran, and he stated it well, and his opinion means nothing to me.
Thank you. We'll now go back to Louis Krause with the Registered Bard for another question. Louis, please unmute.
Hi, thanks again, Congressman. I was wondering, I guess just because we cover Eugene, Springfield, are there any particular projects you think were most important and help benefit people in Lane County in this area? And also, I understand you still maybe live in this area. I was kind of wondering if you look forward to doing anything here in the community.
Well, most recently we got a grant, which I pushed very hard with the administration to rebuild Franklin Boulevard, turn it into a real boulevard. That's the most recent accomplishment. Anybody who's ever landed on a foggy night in the winter at Eugene in the last 20 years, that's because I got us a Category 2 landing system. You couldn't land in the fog in Eugene before I got that. We weren't qualified. FAA said, oh, you're not a big enough airport. And I proved to them that we had more diverted flights because of our winter weather fog than anybody else. So there's that. I've worked on many projects. I put money into the bridge crossing over the Willamette River. I get dedicated federal funds for that. The bike paths, I've got a lot of dedicated money into our bike paths and alternate modes. They even named a bike bridge after me. My first project was the Ferry Street Bridge, and getting it earthquake reinforced. And people don't know, before I got that money, the bike path crossed the entrance ramp to I-5. Not too good. So we strengthened it for earthquakes, and we facilitated the movement of traffic. That was one of my first projects, and there have been dozens and dozens after that. I've always worked closely with the city and the county to bring in funds and benefit my district and Lane County, Eugene, Springfield. Yeah, and I still live in Springfield, and I'm going to continue to live in Springfield.
Yeah. Anything else you plan to do after retiring that you most want to do?
Oh, I mentioned it earlier. You know, I want to hike some of the areas that I created with wilderness. I want to spend a lot more time in Oregon. You know, I've got a book in my head about what's wrong with America and how we might fix it. I hope to write that. And, you know, beyond that, I don't know. You know, might teach. I might have other offers I can't even anticipate at this point in time.
All right, great. Thank you.
We will now go over to Henry Houston with Eugene Weekly for our final question. Henry, please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Actually, you just answered it because I was about to ask if you were going to write a memoir.
No, not a memoir. No. It's
okay.
not about me. I'll have archives. They're going to be at the U of O.
Okay.
I'll leave it up to them to organize that, although we are going to take some legacy tours. But no, my book is about, you know, basically, yeah, for years I gave a speech called, you know, American, you know, can American democracy survive? Even back before Trump, it was pessimistic. The challenges are even greater now. The book will in part deal with that, what the threats are and what the solutions are, and also what's happened with radical deregulation. That goes from trade to pharmaceuticals, you know, to you know, transportation, to telecommunications, and everything that has disadvantaged average Americans but profited Wall Street. I want to talk about you know, what has happened and how we can fix it and how we can make it a better country for all of us. So
Okay.
it's in my head. Haven't started writing yet. I won't have time probably for the next year, but after that, I've got a folder full of thoughts.
Okay. And then I guess one more question, if I can. Back in the old ages of 2018, I think, I had asked you, you know, what would be the criteria for you wanting to retire from Congress politically? And you mentioned kind of like a three-prong answer. You wanted to see the maps, the 6th district come into Oregon. You wanted to see President Donald Trump out of office, and the Democrats enjoy the Congress and Senate, or take over the Congress. I guess that kind of happened, and I guess my question is, did you enjoy then these final 2 years with all of those three criteria for you politically? There would be the political context or political situation for you to retire.
Well, those criteria were met. You know, you don't ever get everything you want around here, but working with the Biden administration has been a pleasure. And we've done great things already. People forget the rescue package, the assistance, the tax breaks to families with children. They forget how many small businesses we saved. They forget all the other things in there that we passed without a single Republican vote. And I was a leader in that. And then, you know, what we did in the infrastructure bill, again, the policies aren't everything I wanted, but that's still a work in progress, and hopefully will be continued in the near future and over the coming year. So it's a high note to go out on. But don't worry, when Donald Trump comes back around, I'm going to be one of the loudest voices out there talking about you know, how destructive that man has been to our representative democracy, and why, you know, it would be a travesty if he came back into power.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. That was our final question. Congressman, do you have any last thoughts before we close out for today?
No, it's been a great 36 years, a great honor, great run. And here's a torch. I'm holding it out, and someone else is going to grab it. And I'm certain our next representative is going to do great things. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you
Thank
all.
you.